Hi, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Books and Beaches. So I am filming a little bit later than I normally do, so hopefully the lighting isn't too crazy. With it getting darker earlier and earlier, you just never know what to expect. But it is time to talk about all the books that are coming out in the month of November. Now, I actually thought that the year was going to start, slowing down a little bit as we got into the end of the year. But surprisingly, I found a lot of really great books coming out in November. And it's definitely heavier towards the beginning of the month, and there's only a few on the very last release date of the month, but still some excellent books to talk about. So, as usual, because I say this in every video, I have my computer here with me so that I can tell you about all of these great reads, and I will for sure have them all linked below if you want to check more of them out, because the shorter and sweeter I can keep it, the less length that we have in these videos, and you don't have to listen to me go on and on. But alas, let's get started. Our very first release date in November is November 4th. And like I said, really heavy packed at the beginning of the month here. But the first book of which I found was Coldwire, and this is by Chloe Gong. Now, I have not read anything by her before, but I do believe she's pretty popular in what I'm assuming is the fantasy world. This looks like it is part of the Strange Loom trilogy. And it says this is going to be the start of a daring new dystopian series where humanity has moved to virtual reality to flee their deteriorating world following two young soldiers who must depend on an unlikely ally in their fight for survival. So I don't want to read too much into it, but who doesn't like, a new kind of dystopian world? And knowing that it's going to be a trilogy is kind of great to know, starting off. So there's that one. After that, an author that I know is obviously really popular. I've read a few things by this author. This is the House Sapphire, I believe. And this is by Marissa Meyer, who is very well known for writing Twilight and actually the Cinder series, which I quite enjoyed. I've only read like the first 3 in that series, but this says the queen of fairy tale retellings, and in fact just talked about Cinder, says this is going to be the tale of Bluebeard as it's never been told before. This is a thrilling romantasy and murder mystery perfect for fans of Meyer's Cinder and Heartless. Well, kind of ironic that I just talked about that then. I'm not familiar with Bluebeard though, so let me see. Looks like we have a main character. The first sentence says she's a fraud, but she comes from a long line of witches and magic. The only magic she possesses is the ability to see ghosts, which is rarely seen as useful. Interesting, but I'm not sure. It also says she's going to have to learn to trust her heart. I am too afraid to read too much into these because I swear, and I think I say this every month, but some of these give too much away. But if anybody is familiar with the Bluebeard story, feel free to let us know in the comments below. So there's that. After that, now, I am not going to do this author just injustice, I should say, by trying to pronounce her name and then saying it wrong. But the title of this book is Cursed Daughters, and I will have the cover here with her name. And the cover is absolutely stunning. And this says, a young woman must shake off a family curse and the widely held belief that she is the reincarnation of her dead cousin. Goodness. But it says it's going to be wickedly funny and a brilliantly perspective novel about love, female rivalry, and superstition. So, and now I know why this name sounds familiar. So she wrote My Sister, the Serial Killer. So yeah, there's, obviously more here, but it says it's going to be a cocktail of modernity and superstition, vibrant humor and hard-won wisdom, romantic love, and familial obligation. A lot of things to pack into one book. So if you read the other one, let me know, but I am definitely intrigued by this one. But like I said, I can't do her the injustice of pronouncing her name wrong. After that, a book that I know I have an arc of. I was so very excited. And if you have seen, oh, sorry. Okay, hold on. I just totally screwed up my spreadsheet here. There we go. If you have seen this cover, and obviously I'll put it here, the end pages and the edges of this book, Chef's kiss, but it would help if I told you what it was. And this is We Fell Apart by E. Lockhart. This is part of the We Were Liars trilogy, or trilogy as it's set right now. And so books 1 and 2, book 1 is We Were Liars, and book 2 is Family of Liars. Now, it probably seems a little weird to call Family of Liars book 2, but she wrote them in that order. But book 2 actually talks about what happened before Family of Liars. And so with book 3 here, we, let me just double check. It is going to be a beachy gothic atmosphere, family intrigue, and high stakes romance. So I don't actually want to read too much into this one, but because I don't want to spoil it. But if you haven't read We Were Liars and then Family of Liars, I highly recommend. I know they are more YA based, but they're just so good. So what I'm going to do is I will make sure I link the actual series page down below so that you can check it out. But basically, you know, family drama told from the perspective of more of like the YA side. It's fantastic. So there's that one. Granted, I didn't say a lot about the new book. Sorry, everybody. All right. After that, another one I am so excited for. It's a YA release, and this is book 6 in the Inheritance Game series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. And it is called The Same Backwards as Forwards. Once again, beautiful sprayed edges. I believe I have this one on pre-order, so it should be here next Tuesday. But this is kind of her latest in that series of books. And I don't even want to tell you, it's from somebody different's perspective. But I don't want to tell you who, because I do not want to spoil absolutely anything about this series. But if you have not read the Inheritance Game series, I highly suggest it. I think it is written really well, and it is just a fun, wild ride. And I've also, branched off to read all of the other ones, so highly recommend. But all right, after that, we have one that I had no idea was coming out until I started doing this research. And this is The Bridesmaid by Kate Quinn, and that's Kate with a C. And it says this is going to be a pulse-pounding thriller about a society wedding turned deadly, and for fans of the unwedding, which I don't believe I've read. But it says the Kensingtons invite you to the society wedding of the decade. There's just one hitch. You might not make it out alive. I mean, that is all I need to hear. I am going to assume this is going to be a little bit like, locked room, locked location kind of thriller, and I absolutely love those. And yeah, it's a perfect time to read one of those. So there's that. After that, one by an author that I know I have read from previously, but I don't think I've read anything of their standalones. And this is The Empire of the Dawn. And this is by J. Kristoff. Now, this looks to be, it is book 3 in the Empire of the Vampire series. So I don't want to say too much about this one, only because it is book 3, and I don't know what I would be spoiling because I haven't read these. But I'm sure if you are a fan of that series, you are looking forward to this one. One of the books that I read by J. Kristoff, he had a hand in writing the Illuminae files series. So, but if you are a fan of this series, I am sure you are highly anticipating this one, and yeah, it'll be coming out on the 4th. After that, we have another author that I know I have heard of, but I don't believe I've read anything, and this is Fallen City by Adrienne Young. And it looks like it's going to be a duology eventually, but it says, it's talking about the collector's edition. Okay, it says, in the great walled city of Isara, political turmoil ignites a rebellion 100 years in the making. But when a legionnaire falls in love with a magistrate's daughter, their love will threaten the fate of the city and the will of the gods. Sounds interesting. And now I'm trying to figure out why I know Adrienne Young's name. Oh, she's written quite a lot. And so probably The Unmaking of June Farrow would be one. And I've heard a ton of different things about the Fable duology, I think. So if you're a fan of hers, new release coming for you. All right, after that, like I said, there's so many great new releases coming out, especially at the beginning of this month. we have one that I've heard a couple people talk about, and this is Otherwise Engaged by Susan Mallory. Now, I have a book by Susan Mallory over here on my shelves, and I bought it because it was beachy, and I still haven't picked it up, but I should. But this one says it's going to be a twisty, tender, and wise look at how secrets can transform the powerful and sometimes problematic bond between mothers and daughters. Oh, I like the sound of that. So, and so it could be kind of this interesting, breakdown between that relationship, which I think is, a great twist at kind of a romance novel. So very neat. After that, another one that I believe I heard Chloe at Always Books talked about, and I was like, oh, I have to add that one to my list. And this is the Forget Me Not Library, and this is by Heather Weber. And I think Chloe mentioned the cover. It is a super, super cute cover. And it says, a detour, a chance encounter, two women who alter, the pages of each other's story. So I think, oh, and it's set in Alabama. I love Alabama, guys. Alabama was the place that inspired, my whole channel name. But it's going to be set in Forget-Me-Not, Alabama. And these two women soon discover there's magic between the pages of where you've been and where you will still need to go. And that happiness, even when lost, can be found again. Oh, I love that. So might have to check that one out for sure. After that, we have book 2 in what is currently only a 2-book series, and this is A Queen's Match, which is part of the Queen's Duet, there's my answer, by Katharine McGee. Now, I have this on my to-read list because Katharine McGee wrote the American Royal series. I had to think about it for a second, and I really, really enjoyed that series. I was kind of sad to see it end, and so I picked that one up just to kind of check it out and see if I liked it. But I believe this one is set more not in like current time, because the American Royal series was all about what would happen if we had like a monarchy instead of what we have. And this one I want to say was set, more back in time, a little bit more like, I don't want to say medieval because that's not right, but more, I don't know why I can't think of the right words, but I'm sure you all kind of know what I'm talking about. So this is book 2, and it looks like we are going to deal with the love lives of 3 princesses. So we shall see. All right, after that, just a few more here. And this one I might have heard about from Brittany at Rescue and Reads. And this is With Friends Like These, and this is by Alyssa Lee. And I think Brittany said this is one of her predictions for the Book of the Month books, which I love. And it says, this is a group of Harvard alums have played a secret game for decades, but as the stakes rise, deadly consequences emerge from old lies. An unputdownable debut thriller, I love a good debut, for readers of the suspenseful novels of Julia Bartz and Katie Hayes. Don't think I've read anything by Katie Hayes, but love featuring a good debut. And this sounds like very dark academia to me, which has like Audrey, a chapter converse's name written all over it. Her whole phrase of dark and messed up people doing dark and messed up things. So I'll be sure to be checking that one out. All right, after that, we have Other People's Fun, and this is by Harriet Lane. Beautiful cover. And it says, a chance encounter draws 2 old classmates toward an unforgettable reckoning, and it's going to be a very smart and darkly funny novel exploring power and how it tangles with privilege, marriage, motherhood, and midlife, from the acclaimed author of, I think it's Alice Always and Her. So, interesting. All right, so I have never read any of those. I don't know if I've even heard of this author, but I'm intrigued. And then last, but certainly not least, of books coming out on November 4th is Forget You Saw Her, and this is by Noelle Eiley, I believe. And I'm sure a lot of you are probably familiar with the title Ask for Andrea. I have loved pretty much every book that I've read by this author, and so I'm very, very excited to see a new one coming out. And this one says, it actually says it's related to Ask for Andrea. Oh, that's interesting. So not necessarily like a sequel, but related to. So it says she lost her daughter once. Now she'll go to hell and back to find her. So Okay, I'll be curious. I'm thinking this one is going to be related to the Ask for Andrea part of Ask for Andrea, because it does talk about a character named Andrea. So I don't want to read too much into it. I say that with all of my thrillers, but I am definitely looking forward to that one. But those are all the books I found coming out on November 4th. All right, our next release date in November is November 11th. Not quite as long as the November 4th list, but still plenty of titles to talk about. The first of which is an author that I think a lot of people are very familiar with, and this is Nash Falls by David Baldacci. And now, granted, I've heard his name pronounced a couple different ways too, but this looks like it's going to be book 1 of 2 in the Walter Nash series. So it says, when Walter Nash is recruited by the FBI to help bring down a global crime network, his life is turned completely upside down. And it's going to be, you know, from the #1 thriller, David Baldacci. So, probably a fairly standard kind of one of those crime written novels. This definitely has like my dad's name written all over it. So I'll have to check that one out. After that, we have, and I'm trying to think of where this fits in the series. So this is Brigades and Bread Knives, which is, excuse me, by David Baldry. It says it is part of the Legends and Lattes like book series, I guess. And so I have not read that one yet, but I've heard really good things for the people that have. So currently I think there's 3 books kind of in that series. So we have Legends and Lattes, Bookshops and Bone Dust, and now it will be this one as well. So this one says you are returning to the fantasy world of, you know, Legends and Lattes with a new adventure featuring fan favorite foul-mouthed bookseller Fern. So I am not going to read too much into this one just because I haven't read Legends and Lattes yet, and I haven't really decided if I'm going to. But as always, I'm going to have it linked down below if you want to check out and see what this one is about. All right, after that, we have another debut, which I love. I know I say this all the time, but I do really get excited to find, you know, new debuts and things like that. Oop, and I just tried to screw up my stuff again, my goodness. All right, and this book, this is one that caught me by the cover. This is The Merge by Grace Walker. Very interesting, beautiful cover. And it says, a thrilling and honestly prophetic debut set in a world when Earth and its resources have been pushed to the breaking point, giving rise to a revolutionary and highly controversial procedure in which 2 people's consciousness can be combined to exist in one body. So I read that paired with this beautiful cover and was like, okay, that's a really unique idea. And it had my brain kind of thinking about some of Nikki Erlich's novels. I just finished reading The Poppy Fields, and so I had kind of these weird, like, you know, experiments in my head, and I definitely knew I wanted to add that one to the list. And the tagline here says, how far would you go to never say goodbye? So I'm gonna have to check that one out for sure. All right, after that, we have a book 2 in a series, and this is The King's Ransom by Janet Ivanovich, which it is part of the Recovery Agent series. So I'll be curious, will this series be as long as her Stephanie Plum series? Who knows? But it says, she takes you on a global hunt to track down missing masterpieces in this action-packed and steamy sequel to The Recovery Agent. So, kind of interesting, considering, you know, some things were stolen from the Louvre in the last, like, month. But we shall see. So I do believe these ones are based on a character named Gabriella Rose. So this is going to follow up on the first one. All right. Following that one, I have an author that I have talked plenty about in a lot of my new releases. And the fun thing about this author is she writes both adult and YA. This one happens to be YA, and this is Next Time Will Be Our Turn by Jessie Q. Santanto. I have loved books on either side of her spectrum, whether it's an adult or a YA. But this one says, a grandmother tells her granddaughter about her twisty, often surprising, journey to who she is now in this sweeping love story. So, you know, she's written thrillers, and I think her thrillers are fantastic. I love her, like, dare I say, cozy mysteries in the, you know, Vera Wong series. And then we have these YA novels that she does tend to write a little bit more like romance YA. And so I just love it. And I absolutely love this cover. I mean, nobody's shocked to hear that. So there's that one. All right, after that, one that I found when I was doing my research because I hadn't heard of it before, and this is Who Knows You by Heart by C.J. Farley. And it says it's part thriller, part prophecy, part gift, and all the way live. It's a quote from another author. And it says it's a part social thriller, part modern love story. Who Knows You by Heart is a sly, witty, endlessly discussable tale of big tech, new money, relationships, race, and discovering what's real in an age of artificial intelligence. So, AI is a huge topic right now. I actually just finished talking about it at a meeting today. We talked about it, so much on how is best to use it within the schools and with kids. And so, yeah, I would definitely be curious to pick this one up just because it is something that is going to eventually, if not already, is affecting our everyday lives. So that one could be interesting. And after that, we have two more yet. One, this is caught me by because, I love putting a good romance novel. I may not be a huge romance reader, but I do like, the opportunity to tell you about them. And so this is An Academic Affair by Jodi McAllister. And clearly she's written other things before as I'm looking here in my research, but it says this is a charming new romance about two English professors who embark on a fake relationship. Oh, gotta love a fake relationship trope. And only to discover that it may be harder to pretend than they realized. So I think we can all probably see where this one was going, but sometimes you just need a good heartwarming book, especially, coming into the holidays. So there's that one. And then last but certainly not least, coming out on November 11th, is The Forest of Missing Girls. And this is by, I think it's Nichelle Giraldes. And this one caught me by the cover. I love a good thriller. But it says the forest is hungry and her family's secrets are tangled in the trees. So, and I think the reason this one caught my eye is because it said our main character, her name is, I think Leah, hoped to outgrow her fear of the woods surrounding her childhood home. The dark, menacing trees have long been the site of whispered legends and disappearances of girls like her. So, you were just, creeping, and she is going to begin to look into some of the disappearances, and I'm sure as in any thriller, we know that's not always a good thing. So I'm going to leave it at that. Obviously, it'll be linked below, but those are all the books that I found coming out on November 11th. All right, our next release date is November 18th. And like I said, as we move along through the month, our list gets a little bit shorter. But to start us off, a book that is kind of perfectly timed. This is Simply More, and this is by Cynthia Erivo. I'm going to pronounce it wrong, and I know some of you are going to be shouting at me, but she is Elphaba in the Wicked movies. And like I said, this is perfectly timed because this comes out on the 18th and then Wicked debuts on the 21st. So just saying. But it says, in this vulnerable and enlightening book of life lessons, globally renowned performer Cynthia Erivo, now I'm going to have to look up how it's pronounced, draws from her singular experience to show us how to embrace being too much and to live it up to the fullest iteration of ourselves. So I'll be curious to pick this one up. I absolutely love Wicked. I really enjoyed the first movie. I'm definitely looking forward to the second half coming out because the second half of the, stage show has some of the best musical, that was the word I was looking for, but it's my favorite music in the second half. So, but I'd be really curious, to hear all about her life too. And she always has the most fabulous nails, and y'all can tell. I definitely appreciate that. So moving on, we have another book that I have heard a lot of people talk about, and this is And Then There Was You by Sophie Cousins. So it said she found the perfect man. There's just one big twist. I'm like, all right. So looks like we have a person, she's a production assistant. She's living at home with her parents after a painful breakup. She's 31 years old and it isn't where she wants to be in life. A little reflecting on that one. But it says the last thing she wants to face is the people who once voted her are most likely to succeed at her upcoming 10-year college reunion. Oh, I feel that. I feel it so much. But it says she turns to a dating service to kind of help her out. Okay, so a little bit of maybe fake dating. So I'm not going to read too much more, but it does sound interesting. All right, after that, we have a very, very well-known author, and this is The Seven Rings by Nora Roberts. It looks like this is book 3 in the Lost Bride trilogy. So once I saw Nora Roberts, I knew this is what I had to add to my list because I know a lot of people look forward to her books. And this says she is going to conclude her compelling Lost Bride trilogy as 2 women, one dead, one alive, prepare for a terrifying final showdown. So, not reading too much. There's so many series in this month, and I know I'm kind of keeping it vague, but I never want to spoil something for a series that someone, has started or hasn't started yet but wants to, so it'll be linked below. All right, after that, we have a book that super intrigued me the minute I started reading the description of it, and once again, sprayed edges, beautiful. This is I, Medusa, and this is by Ayanna Gray. So let me show you why. Or tell you why this one caught my eye. And it says, this is a new kind of villain origin story, reimagining one of the most iconic monsters in Greek mythology as provocative and powerful young heroine. Okay, so that's what caught me. I do like Greek mythology. I got to teach it for a while, and that was just a lot of fun because I taught about ancient Greece. But it says she's going to bring her dynamic storytelling to one of the most monstered and misunderstood women of the Greek myths, which obviously you can tell is Medusa. And I am just super curious on where she's going to take this. So it says it's going to be exploding with rage, heartbreak, and love. It's going to portray a young woman caught in the cross currents between her heart's deepest desires and the cruel, careless games the Olympian gods play. So I know I'm not a huge fantasy reader, but that one certainly left me intrigued. So after that, a book that is by an author that I feel like has written a few before. A lot of these are. This is a silly sentence, but this is The Burning Library, and this is by Gillian Macmillan. And it is phrased as a dark academia mystery. Hello, sounds fantastic. Unraveling centuries-old secrets, deadly rivalries, and a cryptic manuscript in the heart of Scotland's St. Andrews. So, and it says it's going to be a tale of murder, obsession, and ruthless ambition. And it's set in the remote St. Andrews. It says a deadly rivalry, a chilling secret, one woman who can decipher the truth. So, once again, thriller. I don't need to know much more, but I am very, very intrigued. After that, I did not know about this book. And this is a series that I started reading in high school. And as I think I've talked about, I had my 20-year reunion this year, so it's been a bit. But I didn't know this book was coming out. And so I may even have to get a copy, and I know my dad really enjoys this. So anyways, without further ado, this is The Return of the Spider by James Patterson, and it is part of the Alex Cross series. I am actually not sure the last time he came out with a new book in the Alex Cross series. Now I kind of want to look it up, but this is book 34. I know I haven't read the whole series, but 34. And ironically, Along Came a Spider is the very first book in the Alex Cross series. So, but I'm just trying to think as I scroll down here. Gosh, this is so long that it doesn't even want to show me all 34. But the last one in this series came out, let's see, let me just click on this here. The last book in this series came out, in 2024. Okay, so it actually wasn't that long ago. For some reason, I thought it has been forever since then, but it's not. But this one is The Return of the Spider, and it says, it is the stunning companion novel to Along Came a Spider, which is the first book in this series, and it introduced us to Alex Cross, so it is the real deal, a character who matters. So I don't want to read too much more. As you know, with a lot of these, they build upon that main character, but I think it's so unique that it is the sequel to that one. So yeah, that one, we're probably going to look into picking up, if not only for myself, for my dad too. And then last, but certainly not least, coming out on November 18th is Haven't Killed in Years. And this is by Amy K. Green. So it says, no one is supposed to know harmless office worker Gwen Tanner is the vanished daughter of a serial killer, Abel Haggerty. Interesting. But a low profile and a new name aren't going to cut it when an obsessive new killer starts targeting her. So it's a new thriller with someone with a standout voice, although it doesn't say a debut, so I don't know if it's a debut. But what a unique perspective of, someone that's the daughter of a serial killer who is now being tracked. So definitely intrigued. Might have to check that one out, but those are all of the books coming out on November 18th. All right, last but certainly not least is our last release date in November, and this is November 25th. I had to make sure I was going to get that one right. And this is our shortest release date, but nevertheless, not still all important. There we go. So our first one that we have here is Best Offer Wins, and this is by Marissa Cascino. And it says, in an insanely competitive housing market, a desperate buyer on the edge, we have a darkly humorous debut novel. Love a good debut. This is going to be the white picket fence becomes the ultimate symbol of success and obsession. How far would you go for the house of your dreams? Excellent question. I cannot imagine what it's like being, someone looking in the housing market. So, we might have some stalking in here, trespassing. Okay, so, it might be someone, breaking into some of these homeowners' lives just to get what she wants. And it says dark, biting, and laugh out loud funny. So kind of a little bit of a mix of everything. It is going to be a debut and a razor-sharp exploration of class, ambition, and the modern housing crisis. Interesting. Kind of a unique take on that. It's one you probably don't hear about a lot. After that, we have The Memory Gardener, and this is by Meg Donahue. And it says it's going to be an enchanting tale of the power of memory and the nourishing magic of gardens. And this is, the author is known as being sparkling and witty. And let's see. So this gardener has an uncanny ability to know exactly which scent among her flowers will illuminate to a person a key from their past that might change their future. Super unique idea. And I actually have a person in mind to recommend this book to, because a good friend and coworker of mine loves all aspects of gardening and stuff, but she also loves to read. So I feel like this book is calling her name. And then last, but certainly not least, coming out on November 25th is Hemlock Lane, and this is by Marshall Fine. And it says, this is going to be a riveting story of family bonds and buried truths. We have a young woman who has a homecoming, like coming home, becomes a reckoning as 4 days together threatens to shatter the comfortable lie that have held their family together. It's a little bit of drama. And it looks like we are set in the summer of 1967. So kind of a unique time frame there. And, we're going to have a family that their complex ties are what binds them. They're kind of grappling with that, and they're discovering the truth. And even though it might be painful, it might help them break free. So I liked that one. A little bit of different timeline than we typically see a lot of. So very neat. But those are all the books that I found coming out in the month of November. Let me know if you know of any other titles that you've heard of coming out in November that you're looking forward to. Feel free to leave those in the comments below. As always, let's see. If you don't have, too much to add, like additional title-wise, either let me know which one you're most looking forward to, or just leave a book emoji below to let me know you're here. It is definitely helpful with my channel. Like I said, working on that whole consistency thing, but I so appreciate you all being here and watching with me. As always, though, if you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.